Here's just another quick lesson on LScript manipulation, really. It's not quite programming yet. We haven't quite gotten there yet, but that's coming. But let me just give a simple example. Um, if I load up this tricycle object, let's just take a look as it loads up here. Hit the A key to fit it to all the windows. Now, this is the standard tricycle object, but I've broken it down into 4 different layers: the frame, the front wheel, and each pedal. And that's not really the point of this lesson, how I broke that down, but we'll cover that in another tutorial at some point, I'm sure. The whole idea here, though, is that if we look at on the detail menu, a pivot, the pivot point for each of these layers is not where we want it. Particularly the wheel, I would want the pivot point in the middle, and the pedals, I would want the pivot point in the middle. And I could bring it out and just eyeball it like this. But boy, it sure seems to me like there should be a tool that I could hit a button and automatically moves the pivot point to the center. And there isn't. Okay? I'll admit it, there isn't. There's no tool to automatically center the pivot point included with LightWave. And we could wait for LightWave 8 and hope that that has a tool that will do that. And maybe it will, maybe it won't, who knows. But I don't want to wait till LightWave 8. I need to do this now. And it's a pretty tedious job, particularly if you've got 20 layers. It's not that bad with 3, but you get the point. So what do? Well, hey, look, we'll go to Flay. So, again, the Flay site has this great directory of plugins. And if I just type in pivot point, look at this. There's all these little pivot point tools. And let's just see what we have. I'll just pick this one, Pivot BB. Pivot BB moves the pivot point to the center of an object. Hey, that's exactly what I want. Moves the pivot point to the center of the object's bounding box. Perfect. It's free. It works on the Intel. It works on Mac. Let's click on it. Let's go. Here's the site where, and look at all these other plugins too. Let's just thank this person now for providing all these tools free. What a great human being. And I mean that. I'm a little tired, so I might sound cynical, but let's click on Pivot BB, LScript, and let's save it. And I really mean it. This is great. This is one of the things I love about the LightWave community, is there's a gazillion plugins available free. So we'll save it. And I'm going to save it directly to my, look, it's coming up just as a .ls plugin. It's not zipped or anything. So I'm just going to save it right to my LightWave directory. LightWave plugins. I'll save it here. I'll hit save. And it comes in. Let me close Flay down. Thank you, Flay. Thank you, third party. So let's set this up. If you go to learnlightwave.com, this menu up here is on there. It's called Modeler Menu Plus. It lets you add and edit plugins without having to pull down Modeler Plugins Add. I just hate these pull-down menus. So I'm using Modeler Menus Plus. Again, it's on learnlightwave.com if you don't have it yet. But so I'll do Add Plugins. I'll find the Pivot BB plugin. There. That's been added. I'm happy. It's been added. And now let's just add it to the interface. And I'll use Alt F10, do a text search for Pivot BB. There it is. It's already, when you add plugins to Modeler, they show up on this Construct Utility additional menu, but I hate that. So I'm actually just going to add it over to my plugins thing. Click on the plugin, click below where you want it added, and then hit add, and then Pivot BB shows up there. And so now we've downloaded a plugin, we've loaded it up, and we've added it. If you've never done that, that's how easy it is. And then we click on it and we run it, and it works. Now, let's go back here. Let's run it again. Now let me point out something. Every time I do this, it pops up a little thing down here. It says new pivot position is this. And I'll be honest, I don't care what the new pivot position is. And to make matters worse is if we hadn't changed, not under, I just hit the O key for general options. It's under D for display options. If we'd not changed our alert level to expert, what would happen when we ran this plugin is this irritating little window would pop up and say OK. And it's not a big deal, but once again, if you're doing 20 of these, if you use this, so this is a great tool, except it's giving me an extraneous bit of information. And if I have it set to expert, then it's not really a problem. But if I have it set to beginner, then it pops up and I have to hit OK, which adds an extra key click, which adds 8 years to my life. So what do we do about this? Do we just sort of sit there and take it and not do anything? No, we don't. What we do is we go to the LightWave directory, and we go to the plugins directory where we just added this plugin. And again, I want to make sure this is not a criticism of this plugin. It is. But I'm so glad this person wrote the plugin that it's not a criticism at all of how they wrote it. What I'm really getting at here is I'm showing you that because it's a .ls plugin, if I just go to WordPad and load it up, by the way, let's give a big shout out to C. Merritt for writing this one. Thanks. But take a look. Here's the code. Now, without knowing anything about LScript programming, can you figure out which line we should take out to get rid of the slightly irritating text requester? That's right, I would say this one as well. You were already way ahead of me. So now we remove this line. If this screws up the whole plugin, I'll just re-download it. There's no harm you can do here. This is, again, I'm trying to get you over any fear here. And now when we run pivot BB, it just does it. There's no message, there's no pop-up, and there you go. So we've taken a great, useful plugin, and I've tweaked it so it's a little more useful to me. And this is the great thing about these .ls plugins. These .ls plugins you can open and you can read. So if you write plugins, unless you got a really compelling reason, please just write them as .ls plugins. So and comment them if you want to be nice to everybody else in the community, so we can see what you're doing. But this is a great example of the kind of thing where it's like we didn't have a tool, we found the tool, and we even improved the tool with no real knowledge of LScript programming beyond the ability to read.